You're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. Wow, we're in an unprecedented time. We're living through history. Many of you out there feel like we are actually living in a movie. I don't know about you, but I'm waiting for Will Smith to exit stage right and get into some helicopter or some sort of futuristic ride and take off through these streets that are empty. I know that many of us are feeling anxiety, feeling stress. We haven't experienced this before. And I find that at these times, we really need to really check ourselves so that we be sure that we are equipped with what we need to be equipped with to be able to understand the situation we're in and to be able to have clarity as we walk through the unknown. I know that many of you are stressed out, you have anxiety, you have worry, you've been watching a lot of media, you've been listening to media, some of it's been helpful, some of it is fear-mongering. And this show is anything but fear-mongering. That is not what this show is about. We've been on the air for 9 years, syndicated nationally. And Live Your True Life Perspectives is all about giving the facts, the information, and educating. It's about uplifting, and it's about finding the true answers. You know, I realize that there's a lot of things being talked about. I realize that there's a lot of comments out there. There's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of things out there that make us fearful. There's a lot of things that are being said that we really don't know. Is that the truth? Is that the truth? What is the truth? And so with this new coronavirus, we're being told multiple things. You turn on one program, it tells you one thing. You turn on another program, it tells you another. And I know that this can create anxiety. It can create depression. And it can make you worry for the future. Because that's what it is. It's really scary. But we don't have to be scared. We can be informed. We can have the knowledge that we need to be informed. We can get clarity to understand the newest information coming down the pike. And so there's been a lot of misinformation. There's been a lot of information that is given to us in the very beginning because that's what they thought was the truth, or that's what they were wanting us to believe. However, at this point in time, we have new information. We have a bit of a finger on the pulse, you might say. And so on today's show, we'll be sharing that with you. We'll be sharing that information, offering that clarity. First off, don't forget to check out artforyourcause.com. You know, artists don't just stop painting and creating work during this crisis. And by the way, the charities don't stop operating during a crisis. There are still homeless people. There are still people that need medication and help. There are still seniors that don't have food. There's a lot of things going on that still needs to take place no matter what. And that's the greatest thing about Art for Your Cause is it donates money to the charity of your cause. So check that out. You can go to the radio show page too. If you said, hey, I heard it, but I don't remember exactly what I heard, go to ashleyberges.com, Ashley, BERGES.com, and just click on that radio show page and you'll see all kinds of links right there. Art for Your Cause, another group called Create Your Cause, which is a really neat organization to create a cause that you want to create and to get people behind it with crowdfunding. Also, don't forget my co-host, Reggie Harvey. Reggie is not coming in the studio today. He will be via phone next week. We think it's in the best interest. He has a compromised immune system. He's awaiting a transplant. And because of that, it is our responsibility to be aware of those situations. And it's also not only our responsibility, but it's also personal responsibility. Because we don't want to see anything happen to our elderly, our seniors. We don't want to see anything happen to anybody we know. But we got to be smart and we got to be wise. So Reggie will be joining us from his home next week. That'll be great. Also, don't forget to check out theconnectionapp.com, theconnectionapp.com. Just because you are home doesn't mean that you can't connect. I did about 8 interviews on Fox News yesterday morning. It wasn't last week, yesterday morning. Seems like last week. And one of the things that I really want you to think about, it's not about, okay, think about this. It's not about social distancing right now, guys. It's about personal distance. It's about actual physical distance, right? Not social distance. I don't want you to cut off your friends and your family. We need to gather together more than ever. We are not an island. We are on this road together. We are hurling through space on this planet together, and everybody's in the same situation. We got to band together. So don't cut your friends and family out, guys. Don't do it. You don't want to do it. Joining me today via phone out of Houston, Texas, Dr. Liza Leal. And Dr. Liza's been on the show multiple times, and she has her finger on the pulse when it comes to new information about the coronavirus. Her expertise is going to really be helpful in today's show because she has some information that's new. She has some information that's not mainstream. And she has some information that's going to help us all. So whether you are self-isolating right now, whether you've decided that, well, I'm going to take this thing a little more seriously, whether you've decided that, well, I'm going to start washing my hands whatever, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, whatever you're doing, you want to stop right this moment or keep doing what you're doing, but listen to the show. So whether you're listening on 1160 AM KBDT or whether you're listening on USA Radio Networks, I will be posting, if you're watching here on Facebook Live, or I will be posting links to listen to the show also worldwide. But this is information that needs to be talked about. This is information that needs to come to fruition so that all of us can actually make judgment calls based on fact. I know that a lot of us are divided right now, and I understand. I'm not choosing one side or the other, but what I am saying is that if we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it faster, we've got to take care and be responsible. Nobody wants to see economic crashes. Nobody wants to see that, but we need to get this taken care of as soon as possible so that we have the least amount of people sick. Because remember, it's about the hospitals. It's about the beds. We don't have unlimited beds. We don't have unlimited hospitals. And that's the problem. Okay, so they're talking about taking other people out of the hospital that aren't in there for coronavirus and putting them in a hotel. And if you don't have an immediate life or death issue, they don't want you there. And I don't want you there. I don't want you going randomly to the doctor's office for something like, a wart. Okay, there's things that we need to think about because I don't want you subjecting yourself to it, but also the healthcare providers need to be focusing on their most important situation right now. Joining me here live by phone, Dr. Liza. Dr. Liza, great to have you on Live Your True Life Perspectives.
Ashley, thank you so much for having me today. Truly appreciate all that you are doing as well. Miss Ashley has been working quite hard in putting out the information, I know you did a lot of interviews yesterday nationwide, so thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you on the radio. We talked a little last night, and you've been in briefings and conversations quite a bit in the last few days, and I know you have a lot on your mind. And I think we need to start with, I'd love to know a little bit more about the history. I think that when you go online, you get a smattering of information. And some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't. So can you give us some more clarity so that we get a better understanding of what we're dealing with?
Absolutely, Ashley. Great question. Because you have to understand, we're all looking at biomarkers. And what is very different about COVID-19, and I'm just going to go through the history of it. Everyone needs to understand that there are over 1,300 different type of coronavirus species. In the 1960s was when they first found the transmission to humans, and then in the new millennial we found more, and the most recent is the one that was diagnosed and determined in the Wuhan district in China. And that's what we're calling the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Very similar to the SARS outbreak a few years ago, and what makes this very different is a single-stranded RNA, the messenger RNA, that is very different from the other viruses. Now, viruses can mutate, and when viruses mutate, that's what causes the difficulty for us to be ahead of it. Let's go through the history really quickly about the epidemics that the United States has undergone. we've gone through, many of our grandparents and maybe our parents went through the polio, and it took a year before they became and were able to have a vaccine. H1N1 is probably the most current one that people remember, and it took a year before we had a vaccine. This year, on the flu, we have 4 viruses on that vaccine. That's why it's called the quadrivalent. So we're all working on a vaccine. There is a vaccine that's being manufactured in Singapore and another one that's being manufactured out in Washington that they are testing. So we're very hopeful that these will become available sooner than later. So let's just go back to what I was sharing about what's different about this SARS virus. We know that several people who have been infected have had severe headaches, sore throats. Many people are explaining that they feel like they have knives scratching down their throat. Now in Texas, it's a little difficult with sore throats because we also have cedar fever out here, so we're getting a lot of phone calls. So please, if you are concerned, please call your primary doctor. If they are not available, please reach out to the telemedicine community. Our office, Meridian Medical Dental, we have expanded our telemedicine so that we can answer those questions. And going back, I'm going to get back to what Dr. Ashley Berges has just shared. What about the pandemic and what we are facing and why this is different? There are 2 viral strands, one that is really dangerous and one not so dangerous. The difficulty is that we do not have a cure for this. So we all must do our part. Just like we did our part during Harvey here in the Houston area, we are going to be available for patients. Many doctors around the country are available for their patients. In order to protect our healthcare providers, please follow the mandates that are out there. Wash your hands, physical distance, socially connect, which thank God we have media to be able to do that and connect.
You know, this is interesting, and I just appreciate Dr. Liza being on the show. We're going to be talking more about the information you need to know. This is information that you need to have. You need to know it. This is information that you need to be sharing with your family, your friends. This is the real information. And I know that it's hard to figure out what's what, and we get it, but that's why we do this show, okay? Dr. Liza is a world-renowned doctor. She's highly intelligent in what she's working on, and she's at the cutting edge of understanding what can actually be used to not only keep up your immune system, take care of your health, but also, even more ways of being able to deal with this, if you were to actually get the actual disease. But more than that, it's about being able to understand the facts, and the facts is what's important. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking about the coronavirus. We'll be talking about even history back to the Spanish flu. We'll be talking about those various outbreaks. We'll be talking about H1N1, and we'll also be talking a little bit about how to deal with that anger, anxiety, and stress that you might be feeling because, our feelings come up in various emotions, and those emotions are real because many of us are scared and we don't know what to do next. So we'll be back. Stay tuned. Continue to listen to us on 1160 KBDT or around the country on USA Radio Networks. Also, you can always watch us live on Facebook as well. So we're here for you. Stay with us. Stay tuned. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shades.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. On today's show, Dr. Liza Leal and myself are talking about the coronavirus, what you need to know. So, Dr. Liza, right before our break, you were going into a lot of the knowledge and detail that we need to. I want you to just continue right where you were.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's talk about, to give people some help in understanding what our country has gone through in the past with having viruses throughout their times. Let's go to the Spanish flu in the 1918s, right after World War I. At that time, there was absolutely no vaccine for this, and it was thought to come from Spain. It really it traveled throughout. And in the South, one of the things that we found was that if you put place people out in the sun, which is natural vitamin D. It was helped to build the immune system. In addition, that's what all of the tents would do. The hospitals were tents back then, so everybody stayed in, everybody did their part. So this is a war on the coronavirus. We need to do our part. Get some sunshine, everyone. I encourage everybody to get some sunshine. Call a friend, go for a walk, and just maintain your physical distance. And like what we learned in the 1918s, we're going to learn again. We just need the heat and the humidity so that the natural radiation can help to destroy the viruses and bacteria that are in the air. No different than when the flu season comes through. It comes through and it passes. So this too will pass, but we have to do it together.
So let me ask you, I'm glad that you brought that up. You know, we've been hearing about that the temperature change will help push it out. Now, does that also mean, though, that there's a potential of having this reoccurring in the wintertime following?
And it may occur again in the wintertime, just like the SARS virus that occurred in 2002 and 2003. And, H1N1 was in 2009. The difference is that we have better treatment for those specific problems. So that gives us more time to be able to develop a good vaccine so that we can be protected for the future.
So when it comes to these vaccines, well, first off, we've been hearing that malaria drug has been working.
Plaquenil.
Yes, in combination with, azithromycin. Tell us a little bit more about that. And was that kind of yesterday's news, or where are we on with that?
Well, what's interesting is that Plaquenil, hydrochloroquine, is the generic name. It's been around for a long time, used to treat malaria. And we use that in combination at 250 milligrams, 2 twice a day for 1 day, then 1 twice a day for several days. And we're showing that the virus is decreasing the amount of time by half. So people that were having severe symptoms that were lasting 9 to 11 days have decreased to 4 and 5. And again, these are all initial studies. We're having to compound the Plaquenil. It's been around a long time, but we don't want there to be a shortage. So we only want to give those medications to those people who are in actual need and positive.
Okay. So that makes sense. So when we return, we'll be talking more about that. So stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. On today's show, we're talking about the coronavirus, the things that you can do, the history of it, what you can do to safeguard yourself, some vitamins that you can be taking, how to create that, and just some information so that you get the real information. There's a lot of misinformation going on right now, okay? And we're not going to be aiding and abetting in that misinformation. Dr. Liza, Doctor, we've been talking about the Spanish flu, 1918. We've been talking about, the connections between this. Let's expand more on that and also expand more on what we can do as far as, staying healthy and small measures that we can take that can make really big impression as far as not, being exposed to it, having a better chance of being healthy.
Absolutely, Ashley. And, the first thing that I encourage everyone is when they wake up in the morning, think about what you're grateful for. Think about that you are able to wake up, take a hot shower, be able to have something in your refrigerator. You get to hug on your kids, love on your pets. Let's start with that. The next is, during this time, I'm going to share a little bit about what us doctors are doing. And if people want more information on what I'm about to share, they can find it on our Facebook. So recently, in order to build and protect our immune system, I sent out a flyer to all of our patients and our loved ones about how to boost our immune system. There are known antimicrobial and antiviral supplementations that can help us to work within our body's own natural defenses. In our office, we start with UVBI therapy, what's also known as IV ozone hemotherapy. It kills bacteria and viruses. It's been used for over 100 years for resistant infectious disease as well as when antiviral medications are not available. It's completely safe, and the benefits can continue up to 40 days. For those who are immune suppressed, we actually do a therapy once a week. The next thing that we can do to help our soldier cells fight the good fight is supplementation. Some people have been asking on live Facebook about vitamin C. This is your time that if you haven't been taking your supplements, everyone, take your supplements. Most people have them in their cupboards. They're sitting back there. They just haven't opened up the bottle to take them. This is your time to take them, swallow them, drink them, to help boost your immune system. Some of the recommendations that we're also doing is recommending that you boost your hydration. Now, there are waters out there that have electrolytes in them that are alkalizing, that also can be antimicrobial and antiviral. I personally drink dirt water. It's called drinkdirt.com. There are supplements. CBD is a natural anti-inflammatory. It helps patients with pain, sleep. It helps decrease your anxiety if you're having anxiety. A lot of people know about that. A lot of people stress eat, and in order to decrease your stress eating, it goes back for me and my patients is ketones and MCT oil powder. And we use that with MCM Nutrition, and I also want to thank MCM Nutrition for sponsoring and being able to do a giveaway this afternoon. And if you can decrease your carb cravings, you're going to be able to increase your energy and your focus. MCT oil is a natural anti-inflammatory. Again, if we reduce the inflammation in our body's soldier cells can naturally reduce and help to prevent bacteria as well as viruses. So we need to help our bodies to be the best fighters. Also, vitamin C and vitamin D. That's why it's so important to get outside. Call a friend that you haven't talked to for a while and take that walk. Again, physical distancing, that's social connecting. And one of my very favorite things to do is that I want everybody to laugh. When you laugh, you increase your dopamine, you increase your oxytocin, and there's so many things that are funny. And this is the time that we want to use the positive of YouTube and Facebook and all those things for media to help us to laugh.
Dr. Liza, one of the things I do want to get clarified, because I feel like this has been one of the misnomers. We've been told with quite a bit of media that this is just an old folks' disease. We've been told that it's just about the seniors and the immune and the folks that have immune issues. But that's not the case, is it?
It is not the case. In the United States, we are seeing between the ages of 20 and 50 that are being hospitalized, which is very different than what we have heard from China, Spain, and Italy. And we have to take action. So if you are thinking about placing your children with your grandparents, please don't. This is a time that we need to self-quarantine. We need to protect our parents, our grandparents, maybe our great-grandparents, if we are blessed to have them alive with us. And all of us need to work together. This is something that is crossing every age group, and we need to protect each other.
Well, and another thing that I want to bring up, and, I love everybody, and I think it's great, and life is good, but, just stop having the parties, for God's sakes. I mean, I get it. I like to party. I like to go out. We all like to have fun. Dr. Liza likes to go out and have fun. But, one of the things that I think is important is just that the quicker we can do this the right way, the quicker we can get out of this. Because I know a lot of y'all are going to get stir crazy after a while. Okay? And so one of the things, Dr. Liza, you brought up about the vitamin C. So let's say you can't, because I know the injections can be expensive. I know the IV therapy can be expensive. I know that obviously IV therapy obviously works better for absorption than taking it orally. But how much do you need to take orally again? How many times a day and how often do you need to be taking it? And what kind of vitamin C do you need to be taking?
So on the vitamin C, let's make sure that it's a pharmaceutical grade that you are purchasing, And pharmaceutical grade basically means that every tablet capsule that you are taking is consistent. So if it says 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams, it's consistent throughout it. That's why pharmaceutical grade is very important. The next one is that if you can break it up throughout the day so that you're not upsetting your stomach, you need to do it. Now, you can start at 2,500, but I'd like for people to go up to 4,000 if they are able to. Now, not everybody's going to be able to do that, and some people are actually going to be able to take higher doses. In our office, we actually do give higher doses. And again, it's based on a case-by-case. Ask your doctor if you have questions, and let's get the information that's out there.
What about the vitamin D? I've been taking vitamin D for a very long time, and I've successfully raised my levels of vitamin D because I feel better when I take more vitamin D. How much average should somebody be taking per day? If, obviously the sun, yes, is part of that. But if you wanted to also supplement that, what do you think would be the best case scenario?
Well, I'll share with you what us doctors do here at Meridian. We all take 5,000 a day, and if it's a dreary day and we haven't seen the sun, we go up to 10,000 daily, and that's units, 5,000 units, 10,000 units. Vitamin D comes in units and not milligrams, so be sure that everyone is looking for that.
And I think, so this is important, guys, because, it's not about waiting until we get sick. It's not about pushing this out. I know a lot of us have been run ragged. We have a lot of work. We're overworked, overstressed, over-responsibility. But this is very important. And, I think that there's just so many things that we don't talk about in the news. So let me ask you another thing, too, because we're talking about nutrition and we're talking about sleep. Now, one of the things that I know that when people get stressed out, maybe they have a difficult sleeping. Obviously, it's the opposite for depression. If you're depressed, you're probably going to sleep a lot more. But, Dr. Liza, what do you think as far as, you're taking your vitamin C, you're taking your vitamin D. First off, before we go into that, are there any other supplements that you would take? I know I just started trying the product, the MCM product. I tried it yesterday. I started at 5 a.m. on the radio and then got done around 10 and then didn't leave the office until about 9 o'clock. And I tried it, and I saw that it had a lot of B6 and B12. That seemed pretty helpful, and I seemed to have a lot more clarity of thought. And it seemed like it directly related to that. And I didn't feel like any stomach upset or anything like that. So tell me a little bit more about that and how that could actually work within your day-to-day regimen.
Well, remember that the vitamin Bs are very helpful for anxiety and depression. Vitamin B6 is actually something that, from an alternative measure, that we actually do treatment for depression. So that if you guys are feeling a little melancholy, and it might just be just that the weather hasn't been sunny, feeling melancholy, it's an excellent thing to have. Niacin is also going to be helpful for increasing your stamina. So all of those things to have mental clarity during this time are very important. I know in the past when I was 204 pounds, right now I'm rocking 133, and it's been a journey. And when I was stressed, I would go for food. And right now, again, I want everybody to really think nutrition is your number one defense of helping give your body the building blocks that it needs for defense. So choosing wisely is very important.
And one of the other things that I want you all to think about is, health is important, but health has so many different facets. When we're thinking about health, we're thinking about something like a Rubik's Cube, right? It's not just one-sided. It's not just, okay, I worked out today, I'm fine, or I took my vitamins today, I'm fine, or I'm mentally balanced, or I'm emotionally stable, or I'm spiritually charged, whatever that looks like. It's all of it, right? It takes all sides of it. So I really want you to think about first off, because I've been talking about media here, a lot of you, and I've been on the other side of this, you need to really watch the kind of media that you're listening to, okay, and watching. Some of that media is fear-based, and I saw some stuff that was on TV the other day that really, I'm not going to sit there and name names of who was broadcasting this, but major network. But it's like they had colors and typography that look like a Halloween special. Okay? We're not trying to scare people. As you can tell, Dr. Lisa's trying to inform. But I want you to really be practical and say, when I'm watching something, does this make me feel good? Or does this make me feel very small and make me feel like I have no option and I'm powerless? Because when we feel powerless, it doesn't make us healthy. Dr. Liza, I know that you have folks coming in the office. Y'all were working for, 15 hours yesterday. Did you hear a lot of people saying, "Hey, I'm just overwhelmed. I'm just scared because I just don't know what to do"? Did you hear that from many of your clients coming in the door?
Definitely heard it a lot, and a lot of them are, it's not just them being home or working from home, or maybe they are now laid off. It's also having children at home. And one of the techniques that I share with a lot of these patients is that I want you to sit down and meditate and do a heart-to-heart. And what that is take your child, put their hand on your heart, take your hand, put it on their heart, and I either want you to do a Bible verse, I want you to meditate, I want you to think happy thoughts, go into a place, and usually what's going to happen is your child is going to fall asleep because they feel the safety and the security. And when you start to feel that and rediscover it, because it's all within you, you can do it too. It's one of the basics of meditation and prayer is getting in touch with your heart, going to the gratefulness. And if you're still feeling that anxiety, there's a couple of websites that are out there. They're going to give great information. TheSimpleDollar.com is one, and it'll tell you about the Department of Labor, unemployment benefits, student loan relief, some of the basics that everyone needs today.
Yes, and another thing too is that sharing the information. Please share the show. We're going to have it up later. It's going to be on Facebook. It's also going to be up later on the podcast. So just sharing this information because knowledge is power. Let me ask you, Dr. Liza. When you look back at the H1N1, what did we learn in that situation? Because I don't think a lot of people took it really seriously. We didn't have to quarantine like this. What is the things that we've extrapolated from that experience?
Well, what was so different about that experience is that we had 2 medications. Now we have about 4 medications that actually combat that specifically, along with 4 other strains of the flu. So that's what makes it so different is that we could, when we had the flu vaccine that would help to decrease it, even if it was an H1N1 and you had a different strain, you would still have some immunity, which means you might get the flu, except you may not have it for 3 weeks. You may only have it for 5 days with softer symptoms.
Yeah, I think that this has really taken us all for a curveball. So everybody out there thinking about this, think about really taking care of your health. What's another thing before we go to break, another thing that might be supplemental that you think is just as important as the vitamin C, the vitamin D, the B6, the B12?
Laugh. Everybody, don't forget to laugh. Reach out and make your friends laugh too. Believe it or not, this is going to increase your serotonin and your immune builders.
And also, one thing, too, as well, is I want everybody out there to realize it's not about social distancing. It's about physical distancing. One of the big things, too, before we go to break, I want to throw out there real quick is about future thinking. Okay? I get it. We go down that road and that path and that primrose path, and we create this reality, and we're watching this fear-based media, and we're getting scared, and we're seeing how people in San Francisco, they can't leave their house, and we're seeing how New York is, basically rolling up the carpet, and we start creating a reality in that future. And you and I both know, and everybody listening knows, that the future thinking isn't real. No matter how great the future thought is, it doesn't happen that way. And so I need you to be really self-aware more than ever, very mindful more than ever, to begin to catch that future thinking, because the quicker you can catch that, the better you're going to feel. Because when you start catching that and figuring out you're going down that primrose path and realizing I'm just scaring the bejesus out of myself, you begin to acknowledge the fact that this is not real. And I want you to say, hey, wait a second, I'm in future thinking. Hey, I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to reel it back. I'm going to get in the moment. And what moment means is that I'm in the moment. I'm not thinking about yesterday, the day before. Because when we future think, what are we doing? We're taking ourselves out of our life, and we're standing on the sidelines of life, and we're no longer involved. So stay tuned. We got our last segment with nuggets of inspirations and information for you. Live Your True Life Perspectives. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. On today's show, we've been talking about the coronavirus, the newest coronavirus, what to do, things you can do, supplements you can take, things that you can do to make sure that you're staying as healthy as possible. Dr. Liza Leal has been on the phone with us live out of Houston from her treatment center. You know, Dr. Liza, we've been talking about what you can do. We've been talking about the supplements, but what are some other things that we can do that we can really, because it's not just about, okay, I'm going to take supplements, I'm going to safeguard myself, but it's also, we got to still live. Okay, this whole process is about living as well. What are some other tips that you have for living our true life, even if we might be self-quarantined or at home? What are some other things that we can offer our listeners today?
So I mentioned before the simpledollar.com for information. It talks about tax day has been moved to July 15th, which gives people reprieve. People can defer their mortgage payments. I encourage people to take action and, if they're renting, to talk to their landlord. Look at the U.S. Department of Labor for unemployment benefits. There is student loan relief. And some of the more interesting things that we can do is that if you are able, you might consider sponsoring a pet. We've had a couple of patients that are fostering rabbits. Some of them have a dog. Some of them have cats. And they're taking that time that otherwise when they were working, they didn't have time for a pet. They always wanted one. So now they've reached out and they are fostering. And maybe they'll fall in love enough to consider a forever home and adopt. So it's giving something that you've always wanted to do and haven't had time to do. RosettaStone.com is offering 3 months of free language learning. ABC Mouse is offering for little kids. So there's a lot of things that we can do and be out there working together through the unity and the blessings that we have.
That's powerful stuff, Dr. Liza. Yes, you're right on. And the animal thing is such a great idea. And that's what I was talking about on the radio, too, yesterday. Hey, first off, many of us haven't had time to really hang out with our pets. Giving them a hug, giving them a kiss, play fetch. It doesn't matter. You got a dog, a cat, a rabbit, a snake. I don't know, a gerbil. But one of the things, too, is that, if this is a good time to think about, our reality. And, there's a lot of dogs, there's a lot of cats, there's a lot of animals that need a good home. And if you're thinking about it, this is a great buddy to have, with you in the foxhole as we wait this out, and by the way, animals cannot give you the coronavirus. So please stop dumping your animals as well, because that's horrific and it's not at all acceptable. And I know that the fear factor, but again, this is a living, breathing animal. Okay. Also, another thing that I want y'all to think about too is just really getting creative. I talked about in the very beginning about how many people's gyms are closed, unfortunately, because working out is a very important process to overcoming stress, anxiety, to helping ourselves be healthy and happy. But I guess the best thing to do is to get creative. So, get out that yoga mat that's got 3, inches of dust on it. Clean that off. Maybe you want to do some dancing at the house. Maybe walk, running around the neighborhood, doing a long hour walk, a power walk, whatever that takes, but you've got to get that heart going. And, one of the things also I want you to realize, too, is that we're not alone. Everybody's in this together. And Dr. Liza, I appreciate your, all the information that you brought to the table to help us to really understand the situation. And, I want us to continue to give everybody the information that you get and that we get as soon as possible so that people can equip themselves with that information.
Absolutely. And I want everybody to be able to reach out to us. And just remember, this is the time for families to really get together, have real discussions. One of my posts, they call it the Holy Moly Family Check-In. So this is our time to connect and unify as families and community.
This is awesome. So later on down the week, actually we'll be doing a live video chat, communication live on YouTube and Facebook. Dr. Liza will be joining me this coming Friday afternoon. So we'll be getting that together. We'll be posting that on social media as well. Don't forget, back in the studio on this coming up next week on Saturday. So, we're going to get the information out. The information doesn't sleep. We got to get the information out because we care about you. So don't forget, remember, it's not about social distancing. Remember, it's about also caring about yourself, caring about your neighbors, caring about your family, your friends, your pet. It's about doing the right thing. It's about living, learning, being. Just because it's an interesting situation right now doesn't mean that we just stop living, okay? It's up to you to find a way to find your truth. And maybe, just maybe, during these interesting times, you might actually find a calling that you didn't even know was there. So, I'll be talking about that later this week, too, as well. The calling. Information you will be interested in this week. So stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges. We'll be back this time in 3 shakes.